Capricorn, welcome to your weekly reading. Let's get started for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and see what the energy is around the week ahead. Now, keep in mind that these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone. So make sure to check out your other placements to see if there are messages in those readings for you as well. All right, Capricorn, let's get started. All right, what is the energy around the week ahead for Capricorn? Sun, Moon, and Rising positions. Ooh, building blocks, Capricorn, and fork in the road. Okay. Ooh, lots of cards coming out for Capricorn. Okay, there's definitely something here that is leading you towards something and away from something else. So it feels like you must be or will be deciding between two things. We've got not for you and we've got fork in the road. We saw building blocks come out first, and then there's Treasure Island and Truth Be Told. Very interesting. So seeing these cards in the order that they came out in is very interesting. So it's like you're building a new foundation for yourself towards feeling like you're building something for you, something that means a lot to you. It's full of pleasure. It's full of prosperity and abundance. And it's almost like along the way to get there, you realize that something is not for you. You realize that the truth is that there's one pathway here that's not for you. And then that ends up putting you at a fork in the road. It's almost surprising you, I feel like you always thought that you were building your way back to something specific. And it's almost like now you realize, no, that thing is not for me. I must move in a different direction. And we see this coming to the Edge card here at the bottom of the deck in reverse, which is interesting. I feel like we're going to jump into the tarot cards right now, but I feel like whatever it is that you sort of thought you were always going to move back towards, you now see that that's not where your treasure island is. It's almost like you realize that this week, Capricorn, that you are almost being guided here to, it's interesting. You know, there's a part of you that could go back to whatever's not for you if you let fear guide you, which is what this card says in reverse. You know, like if fear is leading you right now, then you will go places you don't need to go anymore. Most of the time, that can happen when we actually just need a little bit of courage to not go back to what's familiar. And I think you're starting to see the truth there. And it's putting you at a crossroads. I think you always thought you would end up back somewhere, you know, and that might have been a fearful reaction. You might have been having some fear, or you might experience that fear now that you realize, oh my goodness, that situation is no longer for me. You know, you might be interested in the Virgo reading because if you're a cross watcher, you might be interested in the Virgo reading, or if you have placements in Virgo, you might be interested in that reading. This is interesting. I feel like as you build yourself up, the more you build yourself up, the more courage you have, the more you realize that you can't go back to something. Holy moly, Capricorn. That's very interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the tarot cards and see what messages you'll receive about all of this. You're starting to understand the truth, though. And if fear continues to guide you, you might end up back there. And then I guess you'll have to see what happens. See, it won't lead to success if you go back to what's not for you. Oh, wow, interesting. Look at that. That cycle is already complete. And if you go back, it's almost like you're not listening to your inner guidance and you're just sort of succumbing to the fear. You're succumbing to the drama. King of Cups in reverse with that Eight of Wands in reverse, saying to me that you might just need more time to recover so that you don't go running back, because, you know, it's interesting. I don't think that's where you're going to find your treasure island. That's not going to be where you march in successfully. That will be a time that, wow, it's just not for you anymore, Capricorn. There's a new path for you that's going to lead you to that treasure island, but you could have this fear of missing out, Seven of Wands, that is keeping you looking backwards, constantly looking backwards. But even as you look backwards, you start to feel that anxiety rising. You start to feel like a little bit paranoid and a little bit like, this is not grounding, being in this space. I constantly feel like I have to defend myself. And so it's interesting. I feel like we're seeing the world here because that cycle's complete. And it's very similar to that Virgo reading, seeing the world and not for you. There's the Five of Cups. This situation led to a lot of emotional disappointment. There may be some regret or some remorse around it. There may be feelings of like just really let down. And, you know, sometimes when we're really let down by a situation, we might feel like by going back to it, we can fix it. It'll all be better if I just go back and do things differently. But I feel like this taught you so much, Capricorn. And so it's interesting. It feels like going back is not the right thing for you right now. And that's sort of the truth. But there's a lot of mystery around this. There's the Moon card. So fear is definitely present when it comes to this connection. You have a fear of losing this connection. You have a lot of fear blocking you from moving forward. I feel like you're transforming here as you build this new foundation with building blocks. And that, you almost just have to keep going. You know, I feel like your path is forward. Your path is not going back. And you're at that fork in the road where you're sort of like, oh boy, where's my emotional fulfillment? But that, I think you know, is not part of the story that completed itself already. Oh, Capricorn, it's interesting. I think you may be needing a dose of truth here. You have to be honest with yourself about this ending. There's the Judgment card. And I think you're getting clearer and clearer with each day that passes this week. You're going to sort of become even more clear that, you know what, that experience is over now. It's come to its natural conclusion, and I have to find my treasure island as I build a new path for myself and face the truth that this is not for me. It's not for me at all anymore. The outcome here for Capricorn. There's the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, that's your outcome. So I feel like this is karma moving. This is karmic movement. This is moving you. And there's the Nine of Pentacles, Capricorn. So I feel like you're surrounded by abundance and prosperity. This new foundation that you've built for yourself is going to have a lot of rewards for you, emotional and material rewards. And so the idea of going back to something that was kind of disappointing for you, even though I think you always thought that's where you'd end up, it's not. I don't feel like that's for you anymore. I feel like that timeline, it's reached its conclusion. It served its purpose. You know, every step along the way gets you to where you are in the present moment. So it did serve its purpose, but you won't find success going back to a cycle that's already completed itself. And I think that's the truth here. Let's shuffle up here and we'll clarify for Capricorn. Very interesting. There's the Six of Swords in reverse. Yeah, Six of Wands in reverse is being clarified by that Six of Cups. So there's a lot of nostalgia there, right? There's a lot of sentimentality when you think about that past. It might have been a past relationship. It might have been a past connection with someone. Again, check out that Virgo reading if you're a cross watcher or if you have Capricorn and Virgo in your chart, because this is interesting. Like, I really feel like you always thought you would end up back in that relationship. But that's not where you're going to find yourself. That's not where you're going to find your treasure or your emotional or material satisfaction, gratification. That's not going to be it. But it's a strong emotional connection. Yeah, King of Wands in reverse. You may feel like if you go back to a cycle that's completed itself, I feel like you're going to go a bit like you'll have this emotional, sort of explosive emotional state where you won't be able to stay where you are today. Like I feel like seeing building blocks says that you've changed a lot since this. You've changed a lot since this past moment. You've changed a lot. And it's almost like if you go back, you're going to undo some of that and you're going to become a bit unhinged. And I think you'll be quite explosive. You won't be able to maintain that equanimity that we see here on the bottom of the deck in the King of Cups. You won't be able to stay balanced like you are now. And it will show you the truth. I mean, that's the worst case scenario, right? You go back and you realize, oh boy, this is not for me. And then you just have to sort of close it up again, you know? I think either way you'll learn a lot about yourself, but the guidance from this reading is that to trust your instincts and not go back. Don't let fear motivate you to go back to something that's finished. World card again, reminding you that this cycle is complete, sitting right next to the other World card. You got the World twice here, both upright. Ace of Cups is coming out in reverse here to remind you to really focus on self-love and self-forgiveness and compassion for the self, to give yourself that cup, fill yourself up, because I feel like you're trying to, you might be needing to, excuse me, not trying to, but needing to fill yourself up again emotionally so that you don't feel like you have to run back to be filled up by someone else. Because this connection has an emotional hold on you for sure. And so if you're feeling like your cup is empty, you might be tempted to go back to something to see if it can fill your cup in a different way. But I feel like this reading is guiding you away from that and saying fill up your own cup, right? And there's the Nine of Pentacles again. We see it twice now, saying that you have all the tools here to live the life of your dreams. You can fill your own cup. You have all the sort of security, and you've built up this strong sense of self since that moment in the past. And I feel like you're on your way to a lot of prosperity in the material world here. And emotionally, you're not necessarily feeling that confidence though, like we saw here. You're not necessarily like, oh my God, am I really going to let that go? Am I actually going to let that chapter be closed? I wonder. And I also feel like we're seeing that on the diagonal of the King of Wands, because going back could really undo a lot of the confidence that you have built up in its absence. There's the Hierophant. You have been your own spiritual teacher since this happened. Nine of Cups on the bottom of the deck. You have been able to find emotional fulfillment through yourself. And I feel like I said, you know, every experience that we had in the past has led us to where we are in the present. So you can almost give this chapter closure by sending it gratitude and saying, wow, like that experience led me to where I am today, and I am my own guide now. I am tuned into myself. I am building a prosperous foundation that will be fulfilling emotionally and successful material world as well, you know, and it's just needing some more self-care, so that you don't run back to it because you're not giving yourself that love. You know, give yourself that love and compassion so that you don't look for it elsewhere. You can give it to yourself. There's the Empress. I feel like this is really unifying you, body, mind, and spirit, and also grounding you to give birth to something new here. You're giving birth to something new here. And it's something very, like I said, it's really prosperous, and it just, you know, it's going to change things significantly. So try not to resist that change by running back to something that's not for you. Because I think that you may be tempted to do that in some ways, because you always thought you would end up back there again. I think you thought that chapter wasn't closed, but from what I'm seeing here in your reading, that chapter is closed. Yeah, Seven of Swords. So there's something deceptive about it. There is fear blocking you a little bit when it comes to having faith in what you're doing now. And that Seven of Swords, as your sort of clarifier here, tells me that, you know, you could be deceiving yourself if you think that you can sort of go back to something And if anything, you just need to be grateful for the resources you do have now, and that, you know, you're going to understand the truth about why moving forward is the right decision, because it's almost like, you know, we saw that moon card. It's interesting. It's almost like in that light of the moon where you can't see the full picture is where you're going to sort of expose these limiting beliefs for what they are. And seeing that if fear is motivating you towards something that is complete, then there's something here that you need to give yourself in the form of love, forgiveness, compassion, healing, accepting change, accepting endings, being your own spiritual guide and teacher here, instead of feeling like you need something to teach you. I feel like you've already seen what that looks like in this past experience. And, you know, I'm almost feeling this sort of energy, like, don't go back to something that you prayed to have a way out of, you know? I think I could have said that more eloquently, but it's almost like you prayed for an outing. You're a way out at one point. So don't go running back to this. And I'm also feeling that phrase of, you know, you can't heal in the environment that broke you. So, and it's not that it broke you, but I feel like it broke you open. It showed you the truth. You know, it really showed you that that's not where you belong. You were meant to build a foundation for yourself outside of that circumstance, and that's why it came to an end. It feels very karmic, actually, that like whatever was written between you and that experience, it's done. You fulfilled that contract. It's over. And going back to it, I think would, you know, set you back. Let's put it that way. It would be it's not for you anymore. So it could be a setback. And I think the only thing that would drive you back there is fear. Fear and this idea that you can't possibly give to yourself. And I think you can, Capricorn. From what I'm seeing here, you can give yourself everything you've dreamed of here. Yeah, you don't need to go back to that situation. Very interesting. Nostalgia aside, you don't need to go back to it. Okay, my friends, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading. I hope it's been helpful. If it has been helpful and resonated for you, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. If you would like a personal reading, you can find that information in the description below. And as always, I'm sending you so much love and light, my friends, and I look forward to reading for you again soon. Take care.